Greetings and thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to know you are watching. Today, we're going to learn how to work with sections, headers, and footers. We have seen how to create Word documents, edit, and format. As of now, we expect that you should be able to create Word documents. You should already be able to edit your files and you should be able to format and also save the changes that you have made. We know that with the documents you have created, working with many pages is very difficult when you have to perform some page formattings. Like, for example, changing the orientation of one page will as well change the orientation of all the other pages. This means if you are working with a document that is made up of many pages, if you desire to change the orientation of only one page, it will not be possible with the knowledge that you have as of now. The same thing applies to margins. The same thing applies to things like page borders. It applies to page sizes, page numbers, and a lot more. Again, we're going to look at headers. A header is a text or any other information that appears at the top of pages in your document. If you insert headers now, you will notice that the same header will run through your document. Whereas if you're working with sections, it will permit you to be able to define different headers for different sections in your document. We're going to see how to pull this off. And on our window, on our Word document that is open, if you check it out, you realize that we have a document that is made up of 12 pages. You look at the document status to the bottom left, you see that we have 12 page documents there. So we are on page 1 of 12. On page 1 of 12, we have the cover page. On page 2, we have dedication page. On page 3, acknowledgement. On page 4, table of contents. Page 5, list of figures. And then we have general introduction and it runs through. These are normally headings that we have in students' dissertations. When students are writing their projects and their dissertations, they have headings like this. They have their cover page, they have the preliminary pages, and they have the body of the document, including the appendix and the references. Now, when these items come together, we need to be able to know that your cover page does not contain a page number. Most students, because of this difficulty, they create different files for cover pages. They create different files for preliminary pages and different files for bodies and different files for references. Whereas if you master how to work with sections, then you will not need to create different files for these sections in your document. Today, we're going to see how to pull this off. The first thing we need to do is that we need to insert sections. For you to separate your documents into sections, you need to take your blinking cursor, that is your insertion point, to where the first or the next section begins. Remember that your document belongs, they are all made up of one section when you have not inserted sections. So you're going to take your blinking cursor to where the next section, where you want the next section to begin. In my case, I want to separate my preliminary pages from my cover page. It means that my preliminary pages begin with the dedication page. I'll have to put my insertion point or my blinking cursor just before dedication. When my blinking cursor is just before dedication, I'm going to insert a section. I'll take my mouse pointer. With my mouse pointer, I'll go to the layout tab. On the layout tab, in the page setup group, locate the breaks tool. When you see the breaks tool, go ahead and click on the breaks tool. When you click on the breaks tool, you're going to have various controls that will affect the breaks that you have selected. Go ahead and check. You can read through to see the various controls. We have under the section breaks, we have next page break, we have continuous, we have even page, we have odd page. For example, the next page section break, it will insert a section break and start the new section on the next page. Whereas the continuous section break will insert a section break and start the new section on the same page. Well, however, what we want to do is to insert a section break and start the new section on the next page. We're going to click on this. Once we have clicked on that, if you look at it now, you may not see that anything has changed. But if we go ahead and insert a cover page, in our page number 1. If we now go to our design tab, on the design tab in the page background, we're going to insert page borders. If I insert page border here, I'm going to select my border art. I can select any border art and hit OK. When I hit OK, notice that my border now is found on all the pages. This is not what we want. We want to be able to have our border only on the cover page alone. I'm going to hit on the undo tool. The undo tool is found on your window, top left of your window. You hit the undo tool. When you hit the undo tool, still on the design tab in the page borders, in the page background group, you click on page borders. When you click on page borders, we are going to select our design. We select the same design we selected the other time. Now we look at it, we'll see apply to. This apply to section, we're going to click and select this section. Remember that we inserted a section break. We have divided our document into 2 sections now. The first section is only our cover page. So we want to apply this, our border art, only to our cover page. Now, if I hit on OK, you'll notice that our cover page now has a border. Let's check whether the dedication page has a border. We'll notice that the dedication page does not have a border. That is already an achievement that we have made, because we've been able now to insert a page border on a page, on a cover page, without that page border spreading across our document. That is the advantage of using section breaks. You go ahead and try yourself and you will see what section breaks can help you to achieve in your word processor. The next thing that we'll need to do with our sections breaks is that we're going now to insert page numbers. Remember that your cover page is not supposed to have a page number. But if I insert page numbers now, you will notice that page numbers will appear on all the pages. Page numbers are either headers or footers. You can choose to put your page numbers at the top of your page or at the bottom of your page, in which case it becomes either a header or a footer. I'm going to select bottom of the page and I'm going to select this middle section. That looks quite good to me. When I select the middle section, you will see that my page number is found on page 1, which is my cover page. My cover page is not supposed to have a page number. My dedication page is also not supposed to have page 2. It's supposed to have page 1 in Roman numerals. How are we going to achieve this? It means that we are going to introduce some controls in our document. I'm going to go to section 2. In section 2, I'm going to uncheck this link to previous. This link to previous is not supposed to be highlighted. If you look at it, you see that it is highlighted. Link to previous is found on the new design tab that appears when the header and footer groups are open. When the header and footers are open, we are going to have a new design tab that will appear. On this new design tab in the navigation group, look for link to previous. When you see link to previous, if you click on the first section, notice that in the first section, you have link to previous is not highlighted. You now go to the second section. When you go to the second section, you see that link to previous is highlighted. We have to uncheck this. If I uncheck link to previous, my section 1 and 2 will now no longer be linked. When they are no longer linked, when you uncheck the link to previous, you can now go up to your page 1. When you go up to page 1, you can highlight 1 and press the delete button on your keyboard. When you press the delete button on your keyboard, page 1 goes away from page 1 and page 2 is still found on page number 2. But remember that your page 2 is page 1 of section 2 because that's the first page of your preliminary pages. So I'm now going to change this 2 now into 1. How am I going to do that? I'm going to take format page numbers. Format page numbers is found on the page number tool found on your new design tab in the header and footer group. Now go ahead and click on format page numbers. When you click on format page numbers, the page number format dialog will open. On the page number format dialog that opens, now the number format should be in Roman numerals. Select the number format in Roman numerals. When you select the number format in Roman numerals, go ahead and go down where you have page numbering. The page numbering should not continue from the previous section. It should instead start at 1. So you click on start at and you should specify 1. When that is done, you hit on OK. When you hit on OK, you notice that on my dedication page, I have now my page number 1 in Roman numerals, and that's exactly what I wanted to achieve. My cover page does not contain a page number. That is what I wanted, and my page 1 of my second section now contain Roman numerals 1. That's exactly what I wanted. Let's go down to our general introduction. Our general introduction belongs to the body of our document. The body of our document is supposed to begin with 1 in Arabic numerals. How are we going to do this? You look at it, you see that we have but 6 in Roman numerals. We are not supposed to have 6 in Roman numerals. First of all, we're going to close our header and footer. You close the header and footer on the close tool that is found on the new design tab that opened. Let's close it. We close our header and footer. Then we'll go down to our general introduction page. Our general introduction page will put our blinking QSL before general introduction. Look at where my blinking QSL is now placed. When your blinking QSL is found just before general introduction, go ahead and insert a section break that will start a new section on the next page. We'll now click on page on your layout tab. On your layout tab in the page setup group, click on the breaks tool. When you click on the breaks tool, again, it opens the breaks options. On these various break options, go ahead and locate the next page option. On the next page option, click on it. It will insert a new section and start the new section on a new page. That is exactly what we want to do, and that has been done. I will now go ahead and see how I can format my page numbers. You see that my page number, when that section enters, my page number now changes. It changes from the 6 that it was in Roman numerals to 1 in Roman numerals. I don't want 1 in Roman numerals. I want to have 1 in Arabic numerals. Again, I'm going to go back to my insert tab. On the insert tab in the header and footer group, I'll click on page numbers. When I click on page numbers, I'll take format page numbers. When you take format page numbers, it opens the page number format dialog. On your page number format dialog, locate page number format. In your number format, click and select Arabic numerals, the 1, 2, 3 that you can see. When you select that, you should ensure that it starts at 1. When it starts at 1, you hit OK. When you hit OK, you have your general introduction now begins at 1. And your preliminary pages are all having Roman numerals, and the body of your document is having the Arabic numerals. And that is exactly what you wanted to do. You go down, you have the appendix. The appendix section is not supposed to have page numbers. Your appendix is not supposed to have page numbers. Well, but we have our appendix here having page number 5. We are supposed to remove this page number from our appendix. How are we going to do this? You need to go ahead and first of all, insert a section that will begin on the page that contains your appendices. We insert a section. Remember, the section is inserted on the layout tab. On the layout tab, you go to the page setup group. In the page setup group, go ahead and click on the breaks tool. On the breaks tool, you locate the various options. On the options that appear, go ahead and select next page. You click on next page. When you click on next page, a section will enter. Now, when this section enters, it's going to permit you to be able to now define some controls for your page numbers based on the section that you have inserted. Once the section is inserted, you see that our page number now changes. It changes from 5 to 1, but that is not what we want. I'll double click on this one. When I'll double click on it, I want to remove this one. I don't want my appendix to have a page number. I will now remember that for me to remove page number from a page in a document that is having page numbers, I need to ensure that that page belongs to a section that is not linked to other sections. So I have to unlink this section from the other sections. I'll click on this link here and I ensure that the link is not highlighted. When it is not highlighted, I now highlight my page numbers and delete. When I delete the page number goes away from my appendix page, but then there is still page number on the other pages in my document. That is exactly what I wanted to do, and I've done it correctly. I now go down to my reference page. My references, on my reference page, I notice that my reference is supposed to have page numbers, but when I look at it here, I notice that there's no page number for my references. My reference page numbers are supposed to be A, B, C, D. I'll now have to insert another section here. I will now separate my references from my document, in which case we will finally be having 4 sections. The section that contains our cover page, the section that contains our preliminary pages, and the section that contains our appendices, and the section that contains our references, making up 4 sections. I'll now go ahead to the layout tab again in the page setup group on the breaks tool. I'll click on the breaks tool. On the breaks tool, I'll now locate the various options that appear and now select the next page option. When I click on the next page option, it inserts a section break and starts the new section on a new page. I'll now go ahead and insert a page and my page numbers that I desire. I want to insert at the bottom and in the middle. I'll now select the various formats that appear. I'll select in the middle, and I'll now format my page number this time around and take A, B, C, and D. That permits me to be able to define my references now to be in a number format different from the previous section. All right, after inserting our page numbers and having our page numbers now appear the way we wanted it to appear, we now realize that we have a page number for our references, but then page numbers still appear for our appendix. This is because our reference and the appendix belong to a section that are still linked together. I will now put my blinking cursor in this footer that is found on my reference section. In the reference section now, remember to uncheck this link to previous tool. When I click on this link to previous tool and it is unchecked, it will now permit me to be able to go up and delete the page number that is found on my appendix page. On my appendix page, and now I'm able now to remove the page number, and I am able now to see that all the page numbers in my document appear the way I wanted them to appear. I have no page number on page 1. My page 1, which is my cover page, has no page number. It also has a border, and this border does not appear on the other pages. My second page, which it belongs to my second section, already has a page number in Roman numerals, and look, that looks quite all right to me. When I go down, I notice that I have my general introduction that has a page number in Arabic numerals. That also looks quite good to me. This is my general introduction in Arabic numerals. I go down again to my appendix. I'll notice that my appendix also has no page numbers, and that is exactly what I wanted to have. And my references have page numbers numbered in A, B, C, D, and I can go ahead now and insert different pages for my references and make sure that my references are made up of different pages. This now has given me a structure of my document. Now let us imagine that you want to format the text that is found in your footer, the text that you have inserted as your page numbers. You can obviously format these pages or this text the way you like. You can go ahead and change the font type. You can change the font type to any font type that you like. You can go ahead and change the font size. The size, you can change it to any font size that you like. And remember that the rules for text formatting applies here. You must first of all highlight the text you desire to format before you apply the formatting that you want. You can go ahead and add any color that you want. You can go ahead and add even some shapes and objects, or you add even text. I can decide that I want to write my name in the footer such that Isofa will run across the entire document. And if you want to insert now headers, remember we have said headers refers to text that runs or text that appears at the top of your pages and runs throughout your document. And remember that your headers behave just like your footers. If you want to give headers different for different pages, like for example, I don't want headers for page number 1. If I don't want headers for my cover page, it means that my section 2, my page 1 and page 2 should belong to different sections and they should not be linked together. I'll put my blinking cursor in the second section. On the design tab that appears, I should click on it, and in the navigation group, I should ensure that the link to previous is not checked. When the link to previous is not checked, I can now be sure that I can enter text in this header that will not preliminary pages that will not appear on my cover page, because my cover page is in a section on its own while my dedication page is in a different section, and these two sections are not linked together. When they are not linked together, then my header will not appear on the pages together. If I now click on this link to previous, notice that when I click on link to previous, it will permit me to be able to write something as my header now that will appear on both pages, preliminary pages. Now let us check page 1 and see if it appears on my cover page. You notice that it appears on my cover page, and that is exactly what we didn't want to see. So we need to ensure that our pages are not linked together when we want to give them different headers. And that we can do by ensuring that the documents or the pages are separated they're separated in sections. And when they're separated in sections, you ensure that the various sections are not linked together. And again, if you desire that your header should run across, then you either want to link the sections together or you type the headers in the various sections. Again, we'll notice that our preliminary pages ends where the general introduction begins. But you notice that my general introduction still contains preliminary pages. We need to remove these preliminary pages here. And how are we going to do that? We have to make sure that the section in which general introduction belongs should not be linked to the previous section. When it is not linked to the previous section, I can now write body of document or body of project. This now will run through the body of my project. Let's go ahead and check that out. Let's check out our cover page again. Our cover page does not have a header. Now, our preliminary pages has a header written on it, preliminary pages. Let's go down and check out the body of our document and see if it has the text there. It has body of document. You see that we are able to separate our headers as the sections are. We've been able to give different headers to different sections. That is exactly the advantage of using sections in your documents, and that's also how you use headers in your document. Let's go ahead now to chapter 2. Let's imagine in chapter 2 that you have a page in chapter 2 that is supposed to be in landscape. If a page in chapter 2 is supposed to be a landscape page, if we change the orientation, remember, for you to change the orientation, you go to the layout tab in the page setup group, you click on the orientation tool. When you click on the orientation tool, you have portrait and landscape. You click on landscape, notice that all the pages will change. When all the pages are going to change to landscape, that is exactly not what you want. You want to be able to have alternating landscape and portrait pages. So it means therefore that we are supposed to insert now another section for chapter 2 alone that will permit us to be able to change the orientation of only chapter 2, but then the page numbers for chapter 2 should remain in Arabic numerals. That is why we're going to now put our blinking cursor just before chapter 2. When our cursor is blinking before chapter 2, let's now go to on the layout tab in the page setup group. We click on the breaks tool. When we click on the breaks tool, we go to the next page. Just as we did for the others, we're going to insert a section break. When we now insert a section break, we are now going to take our orientation. We will now take landscape for this orientation. Notice that the landscape for chapter 2 is only now for chapter 2, and the chapter 1 remains in portrait, and you now have chapter 3 in landscape again. It is because we now need to give chapter 3 another section. Because when we put chapter 2 as a section, it is separated from chapter 1, but chapter 2 and 3 now remains in the same section. We now have to click and insert a new section here. When we insert a new section in the same way that we did, we can now change the orientation of chapter 3 from landscape orientation to portrait orientation. And then that would then permit us to be able to have alternating landscape and the portrait orientations in the same document. That is the technique you use to have landscape pages and the portrait pages in the same document. This will permit you to be able to have one file for your document rather than creating separate files just because you needed pages of different format styles. Now let's go ahead and check out some other features of our formatting. Remember that when you have many pages and you have separated the pages into sections, it becomes complicated because there are times that you may desire to have certain controls and you may not even remember where you had inserted a section and where you did not have a section. You would therefore desire to know exactly where you have sections and where you don't have sections. You will now make use of a show or hide paragraph tool. The show and hide paragraph tool is found on the home tab in the paragraph group. Now take your cursor to the home tab. Click on the home tab and go to the paragraph group. In the paragraph group, this is the show or hide paragraph tool. This show or hide paragraph tool will now display paragraphs display also sections and tell you where there are sections, where there are paragraphs, and this will permit you to be able to know, because it will help you. And when you will print, these little highlights will not appear on your printed text. When I click on it, you now see it tells you that there is a page break here, and there is also a section break, and the section break is of type next page. That permits you to know where you have inserted what, and it permits you also to see where it's telling us that we also have a page break here and another section break, and this section break is of type next page. So that is exactly what it does, and it permits you now to have control over your document, because that way you are able to know where you have inserted a page break, where you have inserted a section break. And remember that when you print, this will not come out. So don't bother yourself. When you print, it will not come out. And again, notice that where you have space, where you give space between words in your document, the space will now no longer appear. You have but a dot. However, when you print, that dot that separates these two words together will no longer, that separates these two words will not appear. You can go ahead and use sections in your documents, and with sections, you are able to control your document as you like. Thanks for watching, and do well to practice often. Be sure to watch our next lesson.